it about last year's weather that made the bees not do so well?
So we were doing pretty good last year up to about this point. First part of June, everything was looking all right. I was thinking it was going to be a good bee year. They had plenty of time to fly. Nectar source was good. They had an easy winter, too easy, I guess. And then it dried up. We didn't get any rain. Doesn't matter if it rained in July or August, which it did. So you've got the bees that are building up their strength, the peak. So when you get peak numbers of hive foraging, you want that to coincide with the nectar flow. So when you've got the maximum number of foraging bees in a colony and a really good nectar flow, then they can bring the nectar in a hurry. So when it dried up last year, then the bees were building momentum all spring, ready to go here about the middle end of June at their height, and there was no rain, so there wasn't any nectar flow. So all of a sudden they got all these bees to feed, no food coming. So then the queen shuts down. So now we're going to take a sharp dive in population in the bees. So what will happen with the Carniolan queen? They typically reduce their brood chamber size in the fall. October, when the flowers are done, the nectar flows in, and then that's a signal to the queen to quit laying so many eggs. So they don't need that big of a population there to get through the winter, and so they shut down. Sometimes the Carniolan queen will just quit laying altogether for a little while. Usually they just reduce the size of that brood chamber for the winter until it's just a minimum, just a few new bees hatching out, or maybe 1 or 2 frames. So now the Italians are known to keep working. They just keep going. That queen won't stop even when the nectar flows off. They're going to gather a lot of nectar early on, so they'll have plenty to feed as big a population as they can support during the winter time. So what we saw last year was the Carniolans quit in June when there was no pollen coming in and no nectar coming in. They just shut down. So that's an okay thing in October. That's not okay in June. So some of them just dwindled out. They just never did get going. Even though we got some nectar and we got some rain, we got something going on later on. They just never did get going. The momentum was lost. So if you pictured it on a graph though, here's your bees getting ready to peak at the population, and then here's the nectar flow. They were going opposite last year. So we want those things to go together instead of opposite. We got to have the weather's cooperation with. So what happened to bees last year is that we didn't get any rain in June, slowed everything down, and then we had a really hard winter. They just got cold and stayed there, and that was tough on the bees. So they're already weak. There are already less bees in there, doing less than they usually do in the summer, and then we're going into winter weak, and then we get a really hard winter. It's kind of a double whammy. So that's what fixed the bees this last year. So bad luck. Hope it doesn't repeat itself. So up this point last year we were doing fine about now, so we hope it rains. If we don't get rain the rest of June, that's why I say keep an eye on your bees here. If it doesn't rain in the next 3 weeks at all, we may have to feed, may have to get the feeder tray going, get the feeder tray out, fill it up. Some bees last year, so the rule for feeding bees is if they'll take up the feed, as long as they want something to eat, then feed them. You should keep it in there. So the beekeepers that followed the advice is just feed them until they don't want any more food. They fed them all last summer. Those are the ones that went into winter good and healthy and made it.